Hello dear. Today I am talking about Geoffrey Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer was an English poet during the Middle Ages. He is considered the father of English poetry and the first to be buried at Poets' Corner in Westminster Abbey. His unfinished work, The Canterbury Tales, is highly regarded in literature. The, the gravestones of Chaucer became the center of the corner. The English literary genius like William Shakespeare, the Bronte sisters, Charlotte Bronte, Emily Bronte, Robert Browning, John Dryden, John Keats, and Lord Byron were also included, and they are highly regarded as the literary icons and literary figures of English literature. And this growth and maturity of Chaucer from page boy to father of English poetry. This is the page of discussion here. And he was a son of merchant. He worked as a page boy in royal house. He worked as soldier, diplomat, and even royal clerk. Chaucer saw quite a bit of medieval world. His varied experiences helped prepare him to write the Canterbury Tales. It provides the best contemporary picture we have of 14th century England. The exact date of Chaucer's birth, the exact date of Chaucer's birth is unknown, but official records furnish many details of his active life. In 1359, while serving in England as an army in France, while serving in English army in France, Chaucer was captured and held prisoner. The king paid a 16-pound ransom for his release. That was 18 times what a simple laborer might make in a year. In 1366, Chaucer married Philippa Fenn, a lady in waiting to the queen. Their eldest child, Thomas, continued his father's rise in the world, marrying a noble woman and acquiring great health, health and wealth. And Chaucer gains maturity. Young Geoffrey Chaucer attended St. Paul's Cathedral School where he encountered the writings of Virgil and Ovid, the great writers of the ancient time, from Greek literature and European literature, which would later influence his interest in literature. Then his Parliament of Falls, Troilus and Cressida is considered the best of his works. He is credited with the origin of real rhyming in his poem. The Legend of Good Woman introduced another style in writing English poetry. His poem consisted of pseudo narratives in iambic pentameter couplets. Chaucer showed maturity in writing by collecting 29 archetypes of late medieval English society and wrote them with satirical wit. That is Canterbury Tales. Well, Chaucer was rising through the ranks of medieval society. He managed to practice and his uh, skills as a poet and refine. He wanted to refine his skills as a poet. Joseph began writing in his 20s and continued into his old age. And Chaucer's work include uh, translation of Roman de la Rose, possibly extant as Romanant of the Rose, the Book of the Duchess, the House of Fame, Annelida and Archite, Poes, a treatise on astrolabe. His major works include the Book of the Duchess, the House of Fame, the Legend of Good Women, Troilus and Cressida. And he also wrote short poems. They are here listed, you can see in the slides. And his early poems were based on the works of European poets. He also wrote translations of French poetry. As he grew older, he developed a mature style of his poems. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the Troilus and Cressida, one of the masterpieces of Chaucer. Uh, a later poem drawn from Greek legend of the Trojan War. Chaucer displays penetrating insight into human character in his work. It's time to talk about the Canterbury Tales. And Chaucer wrote the Canterbury Tales in his latter years. Only 24 of his projected tales were there in the complete work, and he could not complete 100 tales because he was busy there, and he could not. He was a man who projected a lot to work, but he could not complete his work. In this Canterbury Tales, each character tells a tale on the pilgrimage to the Cathedral of Canterbury. Even as the tellers or the narrators of the Canterbury Tales come from the length and breadth of medieval society. The tales develop themselves in such a way that they take you to the trip through medieval literature, romances, comedies, stories, and even stories in such literary, in penetrating literary devices like rhyme and some stories in prose. There are crude humor and religious mysteries. And now, Chaucer as the father of English literature. Chaucer as the father of English literature is a great discussion of today's people and today's scholars and today's commentators, analysts, literary analysts, students, researcher, whatever. Chaucer, why Chaucer regarded as father of English poetry? How could this page boy become a great figure in the medieval literary world? Chaucer as the father of English poetry, gathering together characters from different walks of life, Chaucer takes the reader on a journey across medieval society. This is the fundamental thing that he took us to that world, medieval world. Another is the reason that Chaucer is called the father of English poetry, father of English literature, because he was the first to write what became generally well known and recognized poems and stories in the language of the common people of his time, that is, medieval English. When the dominant literary language in England were French and Latin. English had not got that sort of recognition, but Chaucer chose English language. He used English language to write or to express his thoughts of emotions and sentiments and many things. He blended narration. He fused different topics from medieval society. That's why Chaucer is called the father of English literature and father of English poetry. Okay, I think this is the end of our class. We shall meet in another video. Thank you very much.